Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the finals of Open Qualifier 3 for the Williams Student Racing League. My name is Freddie, this is Kieran. We're bringing you two races, 50% races at Mexico and Brazil today to determine the next 10 drivers and the final 10 for qualifying for the LAN finals. The final 10 that will earn their spots on track.
Yeah, going to be two sets of 36 laps of racing with two one-shot qualifyings, 5 drivers per session. It's going to be absolutely down to the wire with drivers like Logan Edwards, Adam McEwen, and one Chubby Cub in previous rounds, all trying their closest to get through in this first lobby. It's going to be interesting to see if they can clutch it on out and actually get through this time, as they still can get themselves in for the other opportunities outside of being on track.
Yeah, of course, this is the final Open Qualifiers, as we've mentioned. So 40 drivers maximum today that will be entering the races. Only 5 drivers from each race will be going through from today's races. That will make up the next 10 drivers. So 30 will have earned their spots by the end of today. There's also the final 10 drivers that will earn their spots, 5 through the panel of judges, which I think you'll explain.
So the best drivers across each and every qualifier who has had the most consistent finishing positions and done some outstanding results, aka driving back through the field, might get you some of that accreditation. Will get you into those 5 extra slots, even if you don't be able to squeak through, just to help the people who maybe have got crashed out by another driver to get on into the racing at Grove. Now there are 5 other positions as well. If you come from a place that has got multiple other qualifying drivers, then you will also get the opportunity to go to Grove and race as well. That make a total of 40 drivers for the series out at Grove, which will then go through another set of heat rounds into the grand final race there, where the true champion will be decided.
Yeah, but let's focus on the next 2 races ahead of us. First of all, we will be visiting Mexico, a track which, you know what, is another track that's growing on me since starting to watch F1. It's a very technical track. That Sector 2, a lot of very tight turns, a lot of places where it is very difficult to make passes. The stadium section, though, I've got to say, is very cool. 4.3 kilometers worth of track, and I think we'll be going for 36 laps of racing, of course, plus the one-shot qualifying. What are we expecting from Mexico for this race?
Roughly 1.18 to 1.19 second qualifying lap times based off of previous performance and equating it to Mexico's circuit. Probably going to be about 1.18 is for the pole position here today. The track has always been a good track in terms of excitement in qualifying, with the essence stolen from some of the circuits, and the key stadium section always being amazing for the post-race celebrations. Now, the circuit does have a little bit of difficulty with DRS. Very often the overtakes end up happening way before the end of the DRS zones, being the highest altitude circuit on the entire calendar. DRS becomes a little bit less effective, but the straight is just that long that people end up sailing on by before they get there. Now, we are going to be followed by Brazil, which is also the second highest altitude circuit, but the difference between Brazil and third is nearly doubled between the gap between Brazil and Mexico and the altitude.
Madness. Well, it is F1 25, the game, not real F1. I don't know how much the altitude will affect it. We'll see, though, as drivers are just about readying up. We'll be going any time now to the gameplay, but until then, we're just going to wait for people at Williams to get us into the lobby. Until then, we're going to keep yapping. Yeah, Mexico, what is it? So I've got a track map here off to the side. 17 turns, I believe. So yeah, 36 laps. It's going to be a long one today because, of course, last week we only had the 25% races. This one, there's a lot more time. The drivers need to pace themselves a little bit better. We're looking at maybe 40 to 50 minutes worth of racing total, which, you know what, it will be it's a lot of time for all the drivers to make mistakes or even claw themselves back from it. They'll need to make sure they're in the right headspace to keep themselves going for that long. As we've got to confirmation now, the lobby is just about ready to go. So we'll be heading into one-shot qualifying very shortly.
Yeah, obviously with one-shot qualifying, we'll only follow on with that one driver that will be going out on track at the exact same time. It's going to be very quick fire going through this first section. and it's going to be very important to nail it on, as you have one opportunity, and you need to nail your setup as you have no room for errors to change it before the race.
Yeah, of course, as well, part firming rules. So the setup you go in with is the setup you finish with. We'll be finding out very shortly as we make our way over to the track. We can see in the top left corner, waiting for players to join.
Also takes a little bit of time sometimes to get the players on in. We've seen this 30 seconds pop up on multiple occasions and then just disappearing set on us previously as well. So we're not going to get too hyped just yet as we see it already disappear for the first time.
Lovely.
It's going to be important for these drivers to make sure that this first lap is absolutely nailed on, but it's also important to nail the first lap in the race as well. Always opportunities to be big movers on lap number 1, and we've always seen it here at Mexico. One of the longest start-finish straights on the calendar and one of the widest pieces of track. It's so easy to find your way scrobbling through and gaining a few positions in that slipstream.
What sector do you reckon is going to be most important for qualifying? Because just from looking at the map, I reckon 2, with the amount of turns, but also how tight some of them are. Getting that right is going to be the difference between qualifying high and qualifying low. We go out there on track with AFK. Oh, here we go. With GCS 0, we are on board with. As we start our lap, making our way down one of the longest straights on the calendar, I believe.
Yeah, sector number 2 is that most crucial sector for the pole times. It's really where you have to find the time on the circuit, as it's the most technical part. But if you nail your setup, you gain time in the straight lines as well. Always an opportunity to gather more speed with good exit speeds, good rotation under the car. But right now we're seeing Logan Edwards struggle a little bit further down the field than we might have expected off of his previous results, as at the front of the grid, Ollie Matthews leading away from Racing Rig 5, Lewis and Adam McEwen racing for those top 4 positions. But Ollie Matthews in that gold, black and pink, leading the way, going into Sector 2 now. You need to nail this first corner, as if you don't, it makes the second bit of it so much more difficult on the back end as well. As the drivers now come through to the back end of sector number 2, you're going to see the sector times light up with a 56.474. Very competitive lap times with the soft tyres. Now start to eke out a little bit. They really start to get a little bit of pain through that sector. They get really warm, so the slower speed of the final sector becomes a little bit more difficult as he runs right up to the wall. It's overtaken by Racing Rig 5 to cross into P number 2. Split by only 1/10 of a second, and it's only 1.7 seconds, splitting the top 3.
Very, very close qualifying to seem there from the first driver going into the qualifying ending. That seemed very close. There we are then with Racing Rig 5 second 1:16.0. Great time. 0.132 off P2. All the way down to P14. 3.5 seconds off with YCV Harry. As we make our way down the list now, 17 drivers in, 2 unfortunately not putting a time in. Only 4.6 seconds separating though all the drivers that put in a time. I feel like that's probably quite a lot closer than we've had recently, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a bit closer than what we've seen in the earlier stages, as we've narrowed down the field a little bit. But it's good to see that the top 3 is so close together. And then you've got Logan Edwards. He got disqualified early on in that lap. A driver we have higher expectations for after dominating in qualifying in his heat last week out. He also had a decent bit of opportunity to make up, but he did have some race issues that hopefully don't plague him here today. 50% race to go through, so he's got much longer period of time to make sure he gets back through the field. But with the higher competition and having to make it up to P number 5, that's going to be a very difficult journey.
Well, we'll find out how the race pans out in a short while. Of course, waiting for all the drivers on the grid to get ready. But until then, looking at the fans in the grandstand, I think. Whatever that is. So, I'm looking forward to this, you know. I wonder how... Oh, there we go. Right on time, as we go for the race. 5 red lights are on. And the lights are out, and away we go for race number 1 tonight at Mexico. All the drivers offline. We've already got a yellow flag out somehow. That's interesting. I don't know how that's happened. Never mind. It's probably just a game. We got... Is that 6 wide? That looks insane. All right, no, here we go. 3 wide in the first 3. Down into turn 1. Nice, Esports 2 making the run already. Lots of contact between cars. That's a car going ghost there. One driver is already miles ahead, and that is Esports 2, I believe. Adam McEwen's made his way up into P2, but already 1.2 seconds off, only through 3 turns. That is an absolutely insane gap that Esports 2 has already built up. Adam McEwen has a chase to do, and it looks like he is chasing as we all make our way through. That is the car spun out on the back. That is one chubby cub who spun out through that turn. So unfortunate for them. Another car, that's the blue and yellow car there, making a nice dive bomb through the right-hander.
We've still got people inside of each other here. Vinny trying to make it work. He only has a little bit of ping issues on his side. Some of the other series that he's raced through. As he ends up spinning out through the back end of sector number 2. That's Vinny having to correct himself and sliding down the entire grid order. As we ride towards Logan Edwards. Battling with Sarah, getting forced right to the end of the track by Bob KitKat as well. He's now up into P number 10 already in that pink car. Now making that move with P number 9. He's got a really good lap 1 under his hands, under the belt.
Already a lap in, and 4 drivers have got the black and white flag for, I'm going to assume, what is track limits infringements. Here we go then. Getting the track back up. Thank you, Kira. There we go, we can see the gap between first and last on the track map is not as big. It's quite big actually, considering we're only 1 lap in. 13 seconds between first and last. We'll see now though, as a lot of the field is starting to stretch out, we're going to have a lot less collisions hopefully, just through people trying to get early breaks. We'll see now who has the best racecraft to crawl their way up the field. As Racing Rig 5 going a little bit deep there, almost catching Adam McEwen, but not quite, luckily.
As we do see ES Clutch tapping the the front left of Logan Edwards into P number 8 already. Further forward, Adam McEwen now having to race Racing with 5 for P number 2. He's going to get a much poorer exit coming into sector number 3. He's going to go ghosted a little bit as well, which makes the overtake a lot easier for Racing with 5. He finds the confidence on the brakes, but he's going to push the track limits and then get pushed through the corner by Adam McEwen. You're seeing the disconnection putting into the ghosting mode just a little bit again. We are clearly seeing a few disconnects, and he picks up a penalty, gets a huge tank slapper out of the final corner. So that's going to be Ollie Matthews going to have a huge run behind him, and Lewis already getting through as well. And Ollie Matthews on that previous lap setting the fastest lap of the race. He's going to try and fight for that inside line, but Adam McEwen lagging back over to the right, back in front of Racing Rig 5, who just gets eaten alive by all 3 drivers who have the DRS available. But he fights it out against Ollie Matthews to get back into P number 4. But the double DRS means he still doesn't have it anymore down this straight, and he just gets consumed again, falling 3 positions on just 1 double set of straights due to the DRS detection zones. But he gets a good exit through this section, but isn't able to find that inside line. But on the exit, he does get a decent run on action, but now has to be careful as Logan Edwards seeks his way into the top 6.
Got to say though, the driver of Esports 2 must be feeling very relieved right now, not having to deal with this squabble behind him, getting away very easily and very early at the first lap. Although SVC Lewis, we can see the gap just going down rapidly, is chasing Esports 2, trying to get that position as we go through the stadium section. Should pick up DRS unless they drop a lot of time here, so we'll have that advantage coming down the back straight as we start lap 4.
Right now the tail of Ollie Matthews. Esports 2 is getting absolutely hounded as Lewis sets the fastest lap of the race, 1:18.7.3.2. But it's a bit of a DRS train behind Adam McEwen, which is going to neutralise the threat for Racing with 5, as Ollie Matthews is actually going to be the one attacking Adam McEwen, and you're really seeing that effect of the DRS as Lewis even made their way past Esports 2. But a lock up from Ollie Matthews, he gets contacted with Adam McEwen.
Interesting.
And makes it a little bit more awkward, but Adam did successfully defend Racing Rig 5 for now, but he's derating down this second straight already. He's clearly having to deploy so much in defense, which is inviting Racing Rig 5 into a tactical battle down in P number 5. But Logan Edwards has brought all of that gap up in the matter of corners due to this racing action.
You can already see the big the gap between for the last position of Vinny Racing, unfortunately growing even bigger by the second. So maybe picked up a bit of damage, or maybe just isn't quite on the pace of the rest of the drivers this race, but is so far away, looking like qualifying is already out of reach. Only 4 laps in this race. jumping back on them with SVC Lewis, making a good pass on Esports 2 down the straight before, but Esports 2 now has the DRS to try and get position back. However, the gap's still building for Lewis as they make their way around the final corner. 0.8 of a second separating first and second. Can Esports 2 make that gap back up down the DRS straight as they start lap 5? Ollie Matthews then just in the wing mirrors of that first two. The gap is not being closed quick enough. SVC Lewis keeping P1 from Esports 2.
Racing Ring 5 might be on the move instead as he dives on in. You will have to drop back out a little bit as Logan Edwards is now making his run onto the back end as well. He's going to open up that DRS with a second straight in a row. This is why Mexico can be very difficult to be good at defending at, as you have two back-to-back DRS straights. But Racing Ring 5 not able to find his way on the inside, and now has to look backwards to Logan Edwards again. He's derating through this section of the track, which makes it very difficult for himself. But Adam McEwen goes really wide in the second half of the double right-hander, which invites Logan Edwards to go side by side, but he forces him a little bit out as they end up pushing each other through, and then the lagging allows for ghosting to affect the racing again, and Logan Edwards gets his way into the top 5 positions and is still on the charge. He is the driver to watch at the moment, with the quick pace that we've seen previously being able to be shown again, but he does have to be careful of track limits, just like the 2 drivers around him.
Speaking of track limits, 6 drivers now with the black and white flags. We'll see in a second how much time penalties they've actually picked up, assuming 3 seconds for multiple warnings each. So hopefully nobody's got the track limit a warning more than once. Anyway then, Logan Edwards making a pass down before turn 1. He's got his car all the way ahead, so should be fine through turn 1, turn 2 and turn 3 back to the right. Dropping back then though with ES Clutch, who looks like they're making a pass from Zero, potentially.
It's going to be free wide maybe into the corner. He's going to be really letting the brakes. He's actually going to attack driver number 2 as well. He's going to get the inside switch, but then get blocked out onto the next one as Harry picks up a 10-second pit lane speeding penalty this early onto the race. It's really difficult for these drivers to keep it consistent, but the racing is still going on for P number 10. It's outside of the qualifying position. These drivers drastically want these positions. Any position gain might be more later down the stretch. There's still a long way to go. This is only lap 6 of 36. We get a yellow flag in sector number 2 for one of the drivers out in front, but they do collect themselves just in time again. So if we switch back over to the front of the grid, Ollie Matthews now has caught onto the back of Esports 2. It was slipped 1.6 seconds off of the back of Lewis, and we get no DRS this time around as we see driver number 2 making a mistake and dropping all the way down to P14. We have to focus again to the front of the grid. It's Ollie Matthews making their move for P number 2, and it will be so before the braking zone. The DRS assistance coming in handy once again.
Esports 2 then just dropping all the positions down through this turn 1. Not quite sure what is happening for their car to be that much slower down that straight than everyone else. I guess the DRS, of course, is helping them out, but after that, such a quick start, losing this much track time every time another car passes is not good for him. Here we are then, back down with P12 with one chubby car. In a little bit of a train that's forming now. You'll see the DRS flaps open for a few of these cars as they make their way down towards turn 4 and turn 5. No positions changing though, it seems, with this battle. See, just following each other around, nice and comfortably.
Back to the front again. We do notice there's 24 seconds down to that racing, down at P number 10. But Lewis up at the front of the grid is now getting challenged by Ollie Matthews. He has put in a phenomenal lap in between, overtaking that of Esports 2 as Harry picks up another 3-second penalty down in P number 7. Ollie Matthews on the charge, on the hunt. He's going to pull alongside, and he's going to have to deploy all of that ARS to make this move stick now. But Lewis is still able to put on the defense around the outside line as he tugs on in again. He will need to focus on the exit speed here. You can see him slower on the entry speed. We're seeing the D-rating coming out of Ollie Matthews already, and we've seen it be so impactful in terms of racing here at Mexico. But the ERS that you have can make up the difference of that DRS already. And so, with the better management so far from Lewis, not able to make the move on this lap, the pressure is going to drain that battery slowly.
It's a good defensive move by Lewis outside line is the fastest when you're going through that turn. So keeping Ollie Matthews on the inside will mean they have to break earlier. I mean, Lewis has a much clearer advantage there. So very well defended from Lewis, but we'll have to make sure that he keeps up that pace and keeps Ollie Matthews at bay to go now through sector 3. It's very wide from Ollie Matthews now. I'd be surprised if he hasn't got a warning there. Going through the stadium, back through this chicane there and underneath the grandstands. Ollie Matthews will have DRS once again as we go round the final turn to start lap number 9 already. We're already quarter of the way through this race. It's going so quickly.
Very quick laps at Mexico. It's going to be the same thing at Brazil as well, but we do get a bunch of laps for these drivers to race at. 25% extra distance on top of it. The lock-up from Lewis, not under threat too heavily on the braking zone, but still pressured into making that crucial mistake. You don't want to be flat spotting the tyres this early on, especially if you want to go for the one-stop strategy. We do know this circuit has seen two-stop strategies many times in the past as well, as it is very much a very high tyre deck circuit, as it's really punishing on the aerodynamics of the cars and also the raw power out of the engines, so you have to push so much harder on the tyres.
Already seeing a lot of drivers now in the pits. You see those bottom, the P14, 15 and 16 in the pits. A few positions changing for them. Going to assume that they're going for the two-stop strategy if they're pitting that early. We've got a yellow flag in sector 2. I'm going to assume a car that's being lapped is front. I'm going to assume that's Harry. Which is unfortunately seen here. Yeah, there we are. So unfortunately a lap down, being lapped by lots of cars. Will be ghosted for the cars passing, so no issues in hindering anyone else that could be battling for those crucial top 5 qualifying spots. Talking about the top 5 qualifying though, it seems pretty comfortable for Lewis, Ollie Matthews, Esports 2 and Logan Edwards so far. Of course, I don't want to speak too soon, but they're 4.5, almost 5 seconds ahead of Racing Ring 5, who is currently on the chopping block. Ooh, that was a bit naughty, Lewis. Bit in the rear bumper of Ollie Matthews, making your presence known. Fair enough. Do not want to be making contact in Formula cars though. That's good job we're on low damage.
Yeah, definitely potentially picking up a little bit of damage to that front wing. Driver going on the inside as he drifts it through that corner and ends up sliding completely off of line. Is Logan Edwards in P number 4 getting checked on the brakes as well on the exit there too before the double right-hander. Logan Edwards getting tested by Esports 2 in the offense here, and already again on that ERS, really struggling to maximize it. He's tried to dump it all to make the one and done overtake onto Esports 2, as he is losing massive amounts of time to Lewis and Ollie Matthews ahead, but it's crucial that these drivers are only getting into the top 5, so he's not going to be too panicked about this situation at the moment. Behind him, Racing Ring 5, Adam McEwen and Logan Poon, both with penalties, but we're seeing Logan Edwards having to take desperate saving lines as both of them dive into the pit, plainly starting to struggle with that tyre there.
Don't want to be losing time due to the tyre there, but also want to make them last as much as possible. Adam McEwen picked the 10 second speed of the pit lane. That's so unfortunate for a driver who was just about on the cusp of that qualifying. Of course, he was in P6, still chasing for the top 5. But that is really going to hinder his chances of getting a qualifying position through this race. Goes onto the hard tyres then through the pit stop. So we'll see how long he can make those last as he comes out with another driver with a black and white flag. I'd like to see what the penalties are currently standing at. We're now a third of the way through this race. Let's see who's on what. 16 seconds for Adam McEwen. It's not looking good for them. The rest of the field's on mainly just track limit penalties. But Adam McEwen picking up that pit stop penalty as well. That's not going to go well for them.
Yeah, struggling a little bit here on the track at the moment, as we just go right on board of one people behind that from BBC, who's trying to make his way forward a little bit through the pit stop cycle. He's got a decent bit of pace, but I think DRS here in the third opportunity on the track is so short. He will now be trying to
drivers that didn't set qualifying time, if I'm right. So makes sense why they're so quick and making up so many positions. So we'll see what happens as this race unfolds. But it looks like for now, if the checkered flag was to fall right now, Ollie Matthews, Esports 2, SVC Lewis, Logan Edward, and maybe One Chubby Cub would be claiming those qualifying positions. But of course, as we just saw, One Chubby Cub is yet to come into the pits. So it looks like Adam McEwen will be claiming that P5 position. But of course, we also know that Adam McEwen has a lot of penalties to his name. So we'll see what happens as this race unfolds. But it looks like it is a battle between Chubby Cup, Adam McEwen, and Racing Rig 5 for that final qualifying spot. Unless Mini Racing can do anything about that, maybe get himself into the fight. Down in P8 currently. Here we go. Racing Rig 5 making a good pass on Adam McEwen towards the end of that DRS zone. Goes through turn 1, already ahead. Looks to make a pass on One Chubby Cup. Does not quite have the pace, but he will have the DRS again coming down towards turn 4. Can he make the pass? He's having a look on the inside. He's got himself wheel to wheel. He's made the pass through turn 4. Does One Chubby Cup have the pace to make it back? No, he does not. Racing Rig 5 is all the way ahead now. And with less penalties to his name and what looks like a faster drive, he could be holding on to that, as he is now in the final qualifying spot at P5. Now he has to defend it from One Chubby Cup and Adam McEwen behind him. The gap is already built up, so he should not be given DRS later on in the lap. We'll see what happens though. Esports 3 then on the back of SVC Lewis. Can Esports 2 make the pass? Can Esports 2 get ahead? As we saw. He's also making a move on Adam McEwen through the stadium set. Oh! Kieran's tabbed out, guys. Kieran's tabbed out.
Great.
And
It's decided to be.
oh, Kieran. Oh, Kieran.
I might have
Well,
scuffed it, chat. I might have scuffed it.
We'll try and get it back. Until then, we're here. I don't know what.
I accidentally tapped that.
We had a great battle going, and yeah, no, Kieran's.
I don't know why it's.
button.
I don't know why
This
it's
is-
completely gone.
One sec.
I don't know why it's completely gone though. I can't tell you that. Oh.
It's crashed.
Oh, that's
It's crashed.
GG's.
We'll be back. We'll try and get ourselves back into the race.
Never had a crash and
But,
doing that before.
My apologies. We'll be back with you shortly. All right, we're almost back, I think. Here we are. Apologies for that. But as we load ourselves back into the lobby, here we go. Oh, I've got to get the trackman back up. There we are, ladies and gentlemen. We are back. We are almost halfway through the race, and it seems like for the most part we've not missed much. SVC Lewis still on the chase of Esports 2. We're on board with Racing Rig 5 though as of right now. That's big, like Flag spike for Adam McEwen behind. Viney Racing has made a pass up into P7, but Racing Rig 5 is still the driver holding that final qualifying spot. We'll see if they can make it, if they can hold it until the line. Of course, got another 20 laps remaining of this race. 20 more times round we'll be going around this Mexico circuit. That is a driver not driving in Sector 2.
Pretty sure that might be Harry again, struggling a little bit in this race. We do see Viney picking up enough a 3-second penalty up onto themselves now. The top 5 positions has got 2 people with penalties, and then a whole flood down to P number 9, all fighting with penalties as well. But One Chubby Cub is sitting on a one-stop strategy at the moment, still going far on that hard set of tyres, trying to get themselves back into this race by going longer, as we're still running on board with Logan Edward, who's trying to hunt down the top 3 positions. Happy with a top 5 result, but will be wanting to prove themselves after the previous races and the previous qualifying heats, where they have been a consistent top 5 threat, to actually come out with a higher finishing position. The only thing as we look further down the grid though, is Adam McEwen is sat on a 19 seconds, which is devastating for their race. And the worst part about it is they're not even in the top 5 positions to start with.
Yeah, I don't think anyone told Adam McEwen you want less penalties, not more. I think they forgot to tell him that the black and white flag is the amount of time that's added on to their race, not taken off. So, unfortunate for Adam McEwen. Maybe they can go for an honorary prize of the highest amount of black and white flags, but we'll see what happens by the end of this race, as we're still following Racing Rig 5 round. Let's jump forward though. Let's jump forward to Esports 2, as they are making their way now through the stadium section. Still trying to chase SVC Lewis. We'll pick up DRS for the start-finish straight as they make their way around the final turn and under the grandstand. A little snap of oversteer there, almost collecting themselves in the wall, but keeping themselves out, which is quite good for them. And now the DRS flap will open. We'll see how much gap they can pick up, but they're starting to lose time a little bit there when the DRS flap opened.
Yeah, the ERS is really powerful on this game. Top 3, all still without penalties, split by 3.5 seconds across all of them at this point. Esports 2, Lewis and Ollie Matthews are those drivers, but Lewis and Esports 2 in the battle for second, 2 seconds behind Ollie Matthews. That critical P number 1 is always going to be a nice little reward for yourself. We've seen it now across 2 separate stints. Esports 2 on the opening flying laps on the colder tyres is really good at finding some extra pace for themselves. But now that we are getting into the longer stage in the stint, is not able to keep up that consistency and is losing that time to Lewis, who's also now hunting down to Ollie Matthews. So he's clearly found a bit more extra pace in this middle section of the race. Meanwhile, Logan Edwards behind was about 2 seconds, but made a mistake and dropped a further 2 seconds left to P number 4, as we're seeing a bit of lap traffic coming on through. But Ollie Matthews has made a huge mistake then. He slipped behind Lewis through the stadium section and is now heavily going to be pressured from the back of Esports 2. But did he get the DRS protection zone in his favour? That he didn't seem to still get. So he's going to ride on board. He's going to be able to maintain the gap to Esports 2, and he's going to keep behind Lewis for the moment. And with this lap traffic, a little bit of DRS assistance is going to come the way of the drivers in the defensive line. But as we look towards his car, we see why Ollie Matthews is struggling so much. That front left wing plate is clearly completely off of the car. At some point, he has gone into the wall, he has clipped that end plate off, and now he's having to make a defensive drive, which is slowing up Esports 2, and maybe even bringing Logan Edwards back into this fray.
If you're Lewis, you're breathing another sigh of relief now, as Ollie Matthews is outside of the DRS range. He's holding up Esports 2. Esports 2's picked up a 3-second penalty, though. There's only 3 drivers in this race that have yet to pick up penalties. That is our top 2 of Lewis and Ollie Matthews. I say top 2. Ollie Matthews has just lost the position now to Esports 2. That 3-second penalty is not slowing him down. But then also ES Clutch 2 in P9, maybe quite far away from the qualifying positions right now, but can pat themselves on the back that they haven't picked up that many warnings yet. So, you know, silver linings.
One Chubby Cub just waiting on his pit stop at the moment on a completely different strategy. he is down in P number 10. He will definitely gain a bit of time and not having to pit again. But will he have the pace to make it work on the very high tyre wear? As we see Logan Edwards now trying to make their way into this indent of a gap, and he is catching up to Ollie Matthews, but he's what's two in front of that. Is going to try and pull away, but hasn't done so just yet, even with that wing plate advantage. Keeping Ollie Matthews in that DRS range is going to keep him in play, even with this front wing damage for now, and he's going to have to tough it out for the stint and tank the time penalty of taking a front wing change for that next and final stint, as they are playing on the two-stop strategy at the moment.
Only 16 and a half laps remaining in this race, so time is beginning to run out for this top 5 to hold on to these positions. We see though, Racing Rig 5's 12 seconds away from P4. He's currently the one on the chopping block, but Adam McEwen 8 seconds behind, but with all those penalties, it looks almost guaranteed that this top 5 will be the top 5 that will qualify, unless anything crazy happens, which, you know, it's the Williams Student Racing League. Crazy things can happen. As we go, make our way around. Doesn't look like any of the top 3 are going into the pits this lap. We'll see how, if we actually have a look at these stops. YCV Harry has finally decided to bite the bullet at DNF. So, unfortunately for them, they are out of this race. Looks like, honestly, it was not going well for them either way. So, getting themselves off the track, leaving the rest of the drivers to race cleanly. Fair enough. Unfortunately, Harry, you are going to be out of this race.
Logan Edwards then into the foray with Ollie Matthews, and he's going to just make the move on the first time of asking. We do see Logan Edwards sliding around a lot. Maybe that's exactly why we've seen such high tyre wear from Logan Edwards in particular in previous race weekends. Always a flaw that he's had is going through those extra pit stops compared to the extra drivers. As we now eke into the ending phase of this race, these drivers will be now eager to get that final pit stop in, but they know they need to manage how far they go in this middle stint to make sure that last stint is them pushing at their absolute maximum to get the best result they can. As Logan Edwards now will put 1 second off of the back of Esports 2 in P number 2. That will be a drive starting from 17th place all the way up to P number 2, but the effort for P number 1 right now is going to be way harder to make, as Lewis is 4.2 seconds ahead without a time penalty.
Adam McEwen's lost his spot as the driver with the most time penalties. As you see down in 15th, SUFC driver 2 has now gone over 20 seconds worth of black and white flags. Crazy to see how many penalties have been picked up in this race. Logan Edwards just getting themselves still sliding through the turn 1 and turn 2. Turn 3 looking a little bit more stable, pushing the car all the way to the edge of the white line. Will not have DRS down here, but is slowly picking up a little bit more time on Esports 2. Almost a lot of time, actually. Looks like Esports 2 is starting to make some mistakes of their own. It's quite close, but it's going to be quite close between these two drivers. Both are sitting on 3 seconds worth of penalties, so this is truly a race on pace now. Adam McEwen's made their way up into P5. Ollie Matthews was high up. He's now in P6, right?
He may have took the pit stop. He has gone down a significant period of time. He's now down 4 positions with that second stop in front of Viney, who's also took that second stop. Now leaving the top 5 positions to go for the pit stop. We're just seeing again why Logan Edwards, though with a huge level of pace, we've seen him competitive in the previous qualifiers as well, always ends up struggling to get into these qualifying positions. But this time, comfortably in P number 3 at the moment by a huge 15 seconds gap to Racing Rig 5. He's going to be very comfortable with themselves to try and qualify this time around. And hopefully, if they do make it to the end of this race in such a comfortable position, they can fix some of their flaws for the race out at the Williams headquarters. But it's going to be still a long way to go then, as we're on lap 23 of 36 here at Mexico. Plenty of time for storylines to keep playing on out between these different drivers and for more penalties to be picked up, it seems.
Yeah, we can see it. We just saw their local crew picking up another 3-second penalty. Down in 10th position. So it looks like, especially with these gaps now, that top 5. Actually, the top 5 isn't quite solid yet, because Ollie Matthews is only 2 seconds off Adam McEwen. We'll see if a battle ends up coming up with these two shortly. But Adam McEwen, of course, with that 19-second penalty, isn't really in contention anymore either way, right? As we see Lewis then, as we look at the fastest laps of each driver, by a pretty comfortable margin is out in front with that fastest lap of a 1:18.6. Don't know how early or late they set that, but if they're putting in times like that, they will be comfortably leading this race.
Lewis clearly putting in a statement then as Logan Edwards comes in for their second pit stop. That just leaves Racing Rig 5, McEwen and Lewis to come into the pit stop. But right now, Adam McEwen, as we ride on board, may be coming into that pit lane to relieve themselves of the pressure of Ollie Matthews behind. He will pick himself up a lot of DRS this lap around. Adam McEwen doesn't come into the pit stop this time around. So as we do see, we finally get to see that car on Ollie Matthews. And they did pick up that front wing change, which means they will come out behind Logan Edwards by 5 seconds, even with that undercut, helping them with a bit of pace at this stage of the race. They've got a long way to go. Ollie Matthews has had some really good pace in this race. They just need to avoid picking up enough bit of wing damage, and maybe they can hunt down Logan Edwards once again.
Yeah, Adam McEwen still currently the closest battle on track right now. All the drivers are so far away from each other. You can see gaps of 6 seconds, 18 seconds, 4 seconds, 5 seconds. Adam McEwen's the only one that really has the driver in front in their sights. 1.8 seconds separating P6 and P5. This is the battle for the final qualifying slots. Lots of sliding though, lots of twitching there from Adam McEwen. As you see both P6 and P5 making their way through the S's at the end of section 2.
Logan Edwards did pick themselves up another penalty, which you see really wide from Adam McEwen before they lagged back on circuit. So really hard to actually understand exactly where they are on circuit then, as they are desyncing from the server at the moment. But Logan Edwards is putting down that time towards Racing Rig 5, who is yet to pit for their second pit stop, down to 3.7 seconds already. He is clawing away at that time, but he's given himself another 3-second penalty on this fresh set of tyres. Now it's 6 seconds total. It's going to make his race against Esports 2 a hell of a lot harder, as there's now another 3-second gap discrepancy between the two of them.
Looks like Logan Edwards is beginning to bleed time as well to Ollie Matthews behind him. 2.597 currently the gap between P4 and P5. Both drivers as it stands will be qualifying, but of course these drivers want to finish as best as they can regardless of that qualifying position. So will we see a battle between Logan Edwards, Racing Rig 5, and Ollie Matthews? Will we see any more battles between this top 5 in the last 11 laps of this race?
It's going to be difficult to predict the future, as we get another yellow flag coming on out. That's potentially for one of those backmarker drivers though, as no one has slipped down the positions. Is potentially not one of those crucial defining moments of the race. We have seen many moments define the previous heats in these occasions, but Lewis is putting in a defining middle race stint then. 7.8 seconds is the gap to Esports 2, and then that's followed by a further 20 as Adam McEwen keeps adding up the total. You gotta be careful at this rate, Adam McEwen. You're going to start getting towards disqualification territory once you pass 30 seconds penalties.
Speaking of passing 30 seconds, we're seeing one driver who's very close to that already down the bottom. That's UFC driver 2 on 27 seconds worth of penalties. 37 seconds they've just sped in the pit lane.
Luckily, the penalties for driving in the pit lane do equate the exact same way to disqualification. So you don't always get disqualified the exact same amount of time penalties acquired. But that's not going to be good for driver 2's rest of their race this evening. But Logan Edwards has now caught to the back of Racing Rig 5 and would potentially make this move nice and quickly. With about 6 seconds, and this is only Matthews demonstrating their own now in this part of the race. Now leaving Lewis with the only leading driver with no penalty to their name. Logan Edwards is going to try and size up this move with his final sector and then just wait it out to pick up that DRS to give themselves an extra bit of boost. As we see a huge slide out of the final corner, Racing Rig 5 will now choose to come into the pit lane. I wouldn't be surprised that he's on very high tyre wear, but he will give himself a shorter final stint which will make it a nice sail to the end, or he'll get a quicker set of medium tyres to go to the end on, which will make his race P number 5 a lot easier, as he's now sat in that pit box just waiting and hoping that the gap to Vinny doesn't come down too drastically.
Logan Edwards is 18 seconds off P2, who's 8 seconds off P1. Looks like this top 3 is pretty set in stone as we enter the final 10 laps of racing. Let's jump back though to Ollie Matthews, who is another 8 seconds behind Logan Edwards, still trying to chase down. Lots of penalties around. Racing Rig 5 is currently the one on the chopping block now in P5, 15.5 seconds away from the rest of the field, but another 4.5 seconds of space behind him. Him and the 2 drivers behind him all on 6 seconds worth of penalties, so this really is a battle of pace now between these 3, as long as none of them end up picking up any more penalties. It will be whoever the fastest driver is out of those 3 picking up the final qualifying position. Can Racing
Tyre upper-wise, as we do see driver 2 getting that disqualification and taking second worth penalties, we take them out of this race. But going back to the top, Esports 2, if they do pit, will be significantly behind Logan Edwards. The only benefiting factor is that they will have fresher tyres and will not have that extra 3 seconds on their name, which potentially will put them still in that battle for third. But Logan Edwards still needs to keep clawing away. This isn't a guaranteed P number 2 that he may get at this rate, especially if Esports 2 and Lewis completely shock me and make a one-stop work, which at the moment they're actually going towards.
Looks like Logan as well is closing about 1.5, almost 2 seconds a lap. So there is potential that he could get into a fight towards the end of this race, but at the same time, it's going to be so on the wire of whether or not they can catch up. And of course, the more they push, the more they'll wear those tyres. So can they make it? Can they get that close without completely destroying the tyres, destroying their chances of a battle at the end of this race? Ollie Matthews is still 9.6 seconds off P3. Looks like it's hanging around that time for now. Racing Rig 5 picks up the fastest lap of this race with a 1:18.1. He got to follow them that lap, so great lap from them. As they're still 11.5 seconds off Ollie Matthews, so still got a lot of gap to make up, but still have 15 seconds of gap behind them as well. So it almost looks like it is set in stone. We'll see what happens as we make our way around lap 29. Let's jump on board though. Let's jump on board with Lewis. I feel like we've not really spoken about him much as he's rounding his way around the final corner. So clear, so far away from any sort of trouble, any sort of battle. We've almost forgotten about them, but we cannot, can we? Because this has been an absolutely dominant drive.
Yeah, clinical from the middle of this race. And Logan Edwards picks another 3 seconds. Logan, I know you're trying to chase for that P number 2, buddy, but you need to keep it on track, as we see Logan is also going off track. He is still clear of any penalties to his name. But at this rate, Logan Edwards, you're putting a gap on Ollie Matthews, but if you keep picking up penalties at the rate you're getting them, you risk picking up yet another one, which might put you into risk of Ollie Matthews. But right now, the pace differential between the 2 is quite clear. Over 10 seconds between all of the top 6 positions. The only 2 people close on track is Montreby Club and ES Clutch, but that's a 15 seconds difference in time penalties. And then Lewis out in front. It's a clinical, good race at the start, made a few positions up with some good clean up racing and kept his tyres very much clean as well, but now is cleanly out in front for 10 seconds. Montreby Club right on the back of ES Clutch then. 2 tenths is the difference, as they share a very similar part of the circuit to that of Lewis, but the race between these 2 is going to go down to cross this straight. Montreby Club is just going to sail completely on wide with the DRS this time around, but how are you going to find 15 seconds then, Moncherico? Is there any way for him to do so, especially behind Vinny Racing as well in front, who's 5.8 seconds down the road and will be an active roadblock defending that 15 seconds.
I mean, One Trebi Cup already has DRS for 2 straights, so that has picked up a lot of space for them. Already got 1.5 seconds ahead, roughly. It's closing a little bit though through these tight turns, so maybe Yes Clutch has the better control through the sector 2. The tight turns are sector 2, but we'll see if One Trebi Club can get that pace to get far enough ahead that Yes Clutch doesn't pick up the spot back off them. It's a tall order though. Let's just say that. To put it lightly, it's a tall order. Let's jump forward a little bit in the field. Vinny Racing, who was pretty high up earlier, is on the soft tyres currently and having a lot of issues with them, it seems. Sliding all over the place through the stadium section. 3 seconds away from Adam McEwen in front. Should pick up a free position once the checkered flag falls due to all the penalties.
Yeah, as we head to lap 32, Vinny is now staring down Lewis, lapping them. They're now sharing the same straight as each other on every single lap now and until the end of this race. Logan Edwards is down to 8 seconds now. Still got a long way to go to catch up to Esports 2 and then gap him with those penalties to his name. So it's not necessarily looking good for Logan Edwards' efforts for P number 2. The top 5 at the moment very solidified as being Lewis, Esports 2, Logan Edwards, Ollie Matthews and Racing Rig 5. All 5 drivers we've seen on a couple of occasions. All 5 drivers clearly deserving on this qualification through their performance here out at Mexico. And to hopefully not commentator curse them. It's been very nice for them to just keep it cleaner than they have in some occasions, even with the penalties that some of them have picked up.
Yeah, and we see with such a long race, the gaps between all the drivers. I don't think I see one anywhere even close to having a battle. I mean, BSA Esports, right towards the bottom, is within a second of F1 Sim DVC, but unfortunately I don't think that battle is really for anything anymore. Logan Edwards picked up another 3-second penalty, so it looks like there's a chance that if Ollie Matthews can close the gap by about 4 or 5 seconds in the next 4 laps, they could pick up that 3rd position just from time penalties. But again, a second a lap, it's a tall order. We'll see if they're able to do that. Racing Rig 5 still got a big gap behind them and still on the same amount of penalties as local Coom. So no issues for them as long as they just keep themselves out of trouble, have a nice little Sunday drive to get to the finish line. It's unfortunate though for a lot.
Adam McEwen struggling on the acceleration on these medium tyres, very much worn away at the moment. You could see on the carcass of him, but they was quite worn as well. He's down 2 positions in this race. Vinny also down 2. These 2 drivers started directly next to each other on the grid, and they're still only split by a second on track. But the difference in penalties is very much drastic. We've seen that all race long, that Adam has just not kept it clean enough on the circuit. These 2 drivers also drivers who have raced each other in other series as well. So these 2 completely matched on pace across multiple series of racing, and we're seeing it again. Finally now catching up to the gap of Adam McEwen, but it's going to be a little bit hard racing a driver when they're skipping about as they are right as Adam is right now.
And we had the pleasure of racing against Adam and Viney yesterday. I say pleasure, but no, they are still still bad. I mean, actually, point to be made. They are so close to each other, but Viney Racing has taken one more pit stop than Adam McEwen. But of course, Adam McEwen did serve a bit of his time penalty in the pits earlier. So even with such different stories of their races, they're still this close. Only 0.4 of a second separating them as they make their way through the very tight section, start of Sector 2. Less issues for them this time as they've made their way through. Local Coom has picked up another 30-second penalty. So that will definitely put them out of contention with Racing Rig 5. Both of them were sitting on 6 seconds earlier. Let's have a look at the tyres. Finally Racing on the softs. 5 laps of wear on them. Don't know if that's enough laps yet to have caused problems for him. But it does look like the gap's starting to build.
5 laps on the softs is very quick tyre wear. As Logan Edwards picks up another set of penalties. He's now up to, I think, 15 seconds of penalties. There's going to be 12 seconds difference between him and Ollie Matthews. So he's going to be very fortunate. But the gap is at the moment 15 seconds. But that's going to spur Ollie Matthews on. If he's kept track of these penalties, he knows that he's only 3 seconds off now of racing against Logan Edwards. And if he didn't pick up that 3 seconds, he'd be heavily in contention. And at the rate Logan Edwards has picked up the penalties across these last couple of laps, he is going to be careful because he is now needing to conserve himself. He has put himself on edge against Ollie Matthews, who is cleanly being quicker than, trying to chase down Esports 2, who is now only 3 seconds ahead, but it will be all for naught with such a big penalty to his name. He won't even get that position as Adam McEwen goes really wide off of the circuit in their defense against Viney, trying to extract any extra performance out of this medium tyre compound against the soft tyre compound on Viney, who's now also trying to start to fall away on their tyre compound as well. But as we see from Lewis leading the way to make this strategy work is to conserve your tyres across the stint. But these two drivers are going to race the absolute left tread off of them to make it towards the end. They've only got a couple of corners before they start their second to final lap. Meanwhile, Lewis is now only 1.5 laps away in P1. But Logan Edwards 1.5 seconds behind, seeing drifting coming out from Adam McEwen. He is finding himself in the wrong type of formula at the moment, but really there's so much to play for now.
Just trying to find SVC Lewis on the map because I believe this is the final lap. No, SVC Lewis has, yes, started their final lap now. 15 seconds away from the rest of the field. Let's jump back a little bit though to Logan Edwards, who's now only 0.7 of a second with 15 seconds of penalties from Esports 2. We could see a battle between these two on the final lap, even though it will end up being for more. We'll see if a pass can be made between these two drivers. But no, this is the final lap, the final opportunity for any drivers. Logan Edwards has made the pass, locks up a little bit into turn 1, goes deep, keeps himself on the track though, keeps himself in front of Esports 2, goes wider on the exit but not too wide, and still has the DRS as he makes his way down and barreling towards turn 4, all the way ahead of Esports 2. It's not going to matter by the time the checkered flag falls. But a great little pass there from Logan Edwards just to pick up that P2 on track. Can he hold it for the rest of the race though? We will see. But I think it's time we gave our flowers to SVC Lewis as he comes around whatever turn that is, starting the stadium section through the chicane and underneath the grandstands.
Lewis then will come across the line with a clinical performance, no penalties to his name as well. You may as well give him the flowers already as he qualifies on through. It's crucial to say though, Logan Edwards has made his way up 16 positions on track. He will lose one of those positions, but it'll still be 15 positions made after disqualifying himself in qualifying. What a drive for him, as Esports 2 had also made up a couple of positions. Ollie Matthews, after a good qualifying result as well, will be happy to qualify on through after this race. There will be a little bit of turbulences from himself as he is not finished in the position, but he could have with that front wing damage. As we then switch back to Racing Week 5, who has been a little bit off of the pace after that first stint, has been trying to make it all the way, and he will have survived. He will qualify. He's been here a few times, and that is P5 for Racing Week 5. But with Esports 2 leaving so early, he will drop down the positions, but still be awarded that qualification spot. Yeah. As Local Coon, we haven't really seen him today, unfortunately for him, but now gets a little bit of time on the screen before we come across the line, and then that leaves us with Adam McEwen. Been quite quick and quite racy, but has 12 seconds still on their penalty points at the moment after serving multiple in the pit lane, followed by Viney, and then one chubby cub who has 18 seconds to their name. And that's it for Mexico. Lewis is your winner, and the first position of the qualifying drivers, joined in by Esports 2, Logan Edwards, Racing Rig 5, and Ollie Matthews. They will go towards Grove, and then we'll be joined by 5 more drivers at Brazil as well.
Yeah, great race from all these drivers, podium celebrations. And underway. Here we go then. Let's have a look at how the race finished. Unfortunately for Esports 2, yeah, has dropped down in the order due to them leaving early. I'm going to assume that was due to another driver needing to take that account for race number 2, which we'll be back with very shortly as we load ourselves into Brazil. We'll see you in a few minutes. And we are back for what will be the final race of Open Qualifier 3. Brazil is up next. We've already had a great race at Mexico, but one of the most legendary tracks in all of F1. To finish off, it's pretty fitting, I have to say. What do you reckon we expect here? Compared to Mexico, what do you reckon is going to be different for this race?
More side-by-side action. This track is so good at being weavy and smooth. A lot more corners, but a long radius corners rather than your 90 degrees sections of Mexico that you needed to have. This one doesn't really have any hyper slow speed corners, which will give lots of opportunities for close racing. Only issues, it risks having a bit of DRS trains at certain sections. But we've got a lot of drivers who've shown us really high quality racing in previous tracks, so hopefully this track will deliver by its iconic status.
Yeah, I have to. I'm gonna get hate for this. I have to say, Interlagos is not one of my favorite tracks. It's quite low down there for me compared to the 24 on the calendar. But I have to acknowledge its legend. Of course, the center S's of Sector 1 is still a very cool sector, but I'm a dirty GT3 driver, man. It's not nice in GT3 cars. But no, only a 5-meter difference in length between this and Mexico, which is quite kind of funny. But almost a 7-second qualifying difference. So, of course, you mentioned a lot more like sweeping medium speed corners instead of the slow speed hairpins that we saw on Mexico. Only the 2 DRS zones of the back of the start finish straight, and of course the straight between Sector 1 and Sector 2 after the center S's. So maybe we'll see a lot of DRS assisted passes there, but I'm hoping we get a lot of wheel-to-wheel action in that tighter technical Sector 2. So we are almost ready for qualifying to begin. Of course, once again, one-shot qualifying. Seeing a lot of fan favorite names, notably Hazard's Racing Productions, there in the lobby. We'll see if they manage to qualify in this go around, because I know I saw them in Open Qualifier 2. I'm going to assume they're in Qualifier 1 as well, right?
Yeah.
So we'll hopefully third time's the charm for Hazard's Racing Productions as the race is finally loading in, as we can see on our screen there. Please don't tab out this time.
My bad.
No. We're having fun. We're having fun. Anyway, 4.3 kilometers of track, 36 laps once again. Let's see what happens. A little bit lower on the track limit side, on the tire wear side though, right?
So, a little bit.
Hopefully.
Softer tyres though. Obviously, the circuit runs a lot softer tyres than Mexico. Mexico, formerly known for, in the era of having coloured tyres, having the highest set of wearing tyres and being the only circuit to use the orange walled tyres back in the late 2010s when we didn't have orange. Yep, only track to use them for multiple seasons. Literally only purpose that they existed on the entire calendar was for Mexico. So it's going to be interesting to see if these drivers can get use out of these softer tyre compounds to get a lot more racy here at Brazil compared to at Mexico, where the tyres don't give you that same grip level. Also, the cars just give you more downforce for your buck. You may run less downforce, but feel like you have more to play with than at Mexico because we are at such a lower altitude. It's nearly half the height of where Mexico stands, which means the engine's just to run a little bit richer on air, and the aerodynamics can just give you that more extra grip. We're still quite high compared to the average F1 circuit on the calendar. So this circuit will be a delight to watch going through the center S's as the cars are rocking on edge on how much grip they do find. But in this era of ground effects, we do find that these cars can still find so much grip coming through this first corner. As we do dive on in with Cheese Gromit, they lose quite a lot of time on a very early braking zone into that corner, and then we round through one of the best overtakings spots we've seen in F1 history in the West. The circuit comes alive in the West. We will be racing here in the dry for the Williams Racing Series though, as Esports 3 currently leads the way, and Alex in P number 2 trumps up quite a few positions for that section of circuit. We now chase up around the banked corner, very offset in nature, which means you can brake a lot later than you actively would think when you're first driving this circuit, and then we curve back around. Then we chase ourselves again A little bit of an uphill section, but nowhere near as much. The off-camber nature of this corner is quite a little bit different angled, and then it's full throttle through this corner as we head towards the slowest corner on the circuit, but it's still really not that slow, as none of the circuits corners here at Sao Paulo take a lot of time on the brakes. And then we charge, we dash, we short suit towards the line. Alex, it's a 1:8.39, separating themselves by 1/10 of a second or so over Esports 3 and Cheese Gromit, who ran on board on the lower end of the top 10.
P6 though, right, just on the cusp of that qualifying positions, but of course qualifying does not mean you get through. It's all about the next 36 laps that lie ahead of us. There you are then, CavC, Alex, Esports 3, Baztum, NCS Sim and Seth setting your top 5. We go down though, Cheese Gromit in P6, Hazard Racing Productions in P7, so both in pretty good positions to try and get into that top 5. CCSW Adam is P8, Halfbots P9, Bolton Ramos in P10, another name I remember seeing a lot of. Emma Payne is in P11, Racing Rig 1, 12, Chaotic Bean 13, NRC Adam 14, Esports 2 is P15, Rig 3 16, and Emily 23 is down in 17th position, unfortunately disqualifying. But we always see the disqualified drivers getting a lot of positions back through the race, so maybe we'll see that happen again.
We've just seen Logan Edwards do it.
Yeah, we have.
He finished P3 and he started P17. He made 15 positions. He was 16 positions up on track if he got less penalties. So there's always an opportunity, but we kind of expected it from Logan Edwards. We've seen the pace, we've seen the struggles, we've seen the ups and downs, but he made it. Crucially, for his sake, it's now the time and to deliver for the drivers in this session. And one of the drivers who we've seen on a few occasions get so close is Hazard's Racing Productions and Cheese Gromit. They have really good pace, some really good strategies as well from the side of Hazard Racing Productions, but they need to knuckle it down and really find their form here today and not pick up any unnecessary penalties, because that could definitely be the difference.
Well, here we go then, waiting for the players to all make their way to the grid and finalise the... Here we go then. I don't know what I'm saying, but there you go.
5 red lights at Sao Paulo then, as they head towards the CRSs for the first of 36 laps. We already see an absolutely amazing start from CAVCX Alex, leading the way by nearly 0.6 of a second as we wind on through. We see that Esports 3 up into P number 2 are following through. Baztom, Seth, NCS Sim, as we see a lot of squabbling all the way down the field, but single file towards the front as Emma Payne up into P11 already, and Emily already passed one of the 2 Adams down in P17. That's going to be a little bit difficult to commentate. We do see that Ramos is now going to get their way a little bit into P7, but Cheese Gromit going really, really wide. It's going to race off of the circuit, Bolton Ramos, and as the race production is going to slip down to P number 7 as well, which means it's all going to be a little bit chaotic as we get 10-second corner cutting penalty from the second Adam already. Hazard's going to go a little bit deep through this section of the track as Bolton Ramos is trying to gap in through this corner that promotes Racing Rig into P number 8 and Cheese Gromit down to P number 9. We've got 0.2 of a second between a lot of these drivers as we go up the crest of the hill. No DRS on the first lap as we now head towards the line. These drivers will be wishing for that DRS flap to open up, but it's going to be Cheese Gromit on the attack of Racing Rig 1 then. He's going to make him force on the defensive move. That was a very aggressive move in the braking zones. That is not what you like to see, as it is a very aggressive and erratic and hard to predict from the side of Cheese Gromit. Hopefully not picking up too much damage. That will affect the rest of their race.
It's already been an absolutely insane cluster of battles up and down the field so far this race. You're already seeing the gaps already building as well. See CavC Alex already 1.2 seconds ahead as he starts making his way through the technical sector. But Baztum's only 0.8 of a second down on Esports 3, trying to make a good trying to make some more positions, getting themselves up throughout the field. Racing Rig 1's made a great pass. Oh! He can't get caught in the wheels with Cheese Gromit. Forces both of them off track there. Neither of them will be happy with that. Cheese Gromit is down from 6th to 11th in a lap and a half. He will not be happy with that. He's got to make a lot of space to make up. So many mistakes being made and so many issues. That's a slide there from the green car.
Of Chaotic Bean. And Rig Frame will make their way through on the exits. 1:11 is the lap time coming out from Alex already. As now DRS wide open for Racing Rig 1, but the slipstream is going to be in the hands of Cheese Gromit, and the inside line into the center S's.
Oh, wow!
Really late onto the brakes, nearly clipping the wing again on to the back of Racing Rig 1. Cheese Gromit is hounding these positions. He knows he has the pace, but now might have to go defensive as the ERS deployment coming out from Rig 3 will get them onto the rear tyre. But can you beat him in the braking zone?
Ooh.
That he can, and he will get through. Cheese Gromit again, forcing him back down to P number 10. And now having to defend from half up behind, but will keep themselves tight to the corner and open up no opportunities coming through into sector number 2.
Once again, these drivers are racing like they're in GT3 cars, like they could afford to go wheel to wheel and bash each other around. No, they cannot. These cars, if they get caught in the wheel tracks of each other, they're just going to cause so many problems for themselves and potentially other cars that could be caught in the crossfires. So these drivers need to make sure they're being careful. The Hazard Race Productions picks up a position there to go up to P6. Let's go on board with the fan favourite for a while though, as he's leading D. Boston Ramos around the final few turns of this lap. It looks like Neo can pick up DRS there. Oh no, there you go.
Open it up, but will still be stuck behind as he is seeing the D-rating of Hazard Race Productions. He used some of that ERS to make an amazing outside move. We didn't quite fully capture on the side, but now we need to go on board with him. We see that Racing Rig 1 is now into the ERS as well behind Hazard Race Productions. All of the top 11 split by only 1 second between each and every single one of them. Carrot Bean and Emma Payne trying to keep in the fray as well. See, late on the brakes has Productions able to stave off Bolton Ramos for now, who now has to look behind to Racing Rig 1 instead as Esports 3 picks up a penalty.
Oh!
And Bolton Ramos goes round into the wall. Low damage will mean that he can get back going again, but he will fall all the way down as we see another driver of Esports 2 also slipping off in the exact same part of the circuit. They won't hit the wall. At least they won't hit the wall like Bolton Ramos did and won't pick up damage in the same kind of way. But this will give the opportunity to CCSW Adam to get through on Esports 2 as he's now going to try and take the outside line, but he's got no damage. He actually makes contact with the front wing as now we're seeing the same liveried cars of Racing Rig 1 and Rig 3 going side by side, both with DRS. This is going to be quite tight, but with the shorter shoot line, Rig 3 gets by and potentially a bit of team tactics to not afford too much points against each other as Cheese Gromit now trying to get the better line on the exit. He's going to go onto the back of Rig 1 and going to get nice and neatly into that slipstream. Already with a good sailing run on the inside line. Will have to be late on the brakes though to make it stick, and does make it through. And now, into sector number 2, he's going to try and pull away as Esports 2 has spun it yet again on another part of the circuit.
So unfortunate for Esports 2, down now, very far away and almost out of contention for the qualifying spots already, and we're only 5 laps into this race. Let's jump forward though. Let's jump forward to P3, Baston, who's currently 0.6 of a second off Esports 3, who currently has a penalty, I believe 3 seconds for track limits penalties. So Baston technically already P2, but really wants to get this pass done on Esports 3 and get ahead while they can. We'll pick up DRS now as they go through the final straight past the timing line to start lap 6. Baston still chasing Esports 3 as we head now into the center S. Can he make a move happen here? No, he cannot. Still not quite close enough. Esports 3 goes for a slide there through turn 1. Baston still sticking on trying to stay in the DRS range. Does have that advantage over Esports 3, but it's not closing the gap close enough yet. Let's jump back though. Who should we go on? Let's go back to Cheese Gromit, shall we? Who's 0.6 off Rig 3, who's 0.3 off Hazard Racing Productions. This battle in P6, P7 and P8. One of the closest currently on track.
NTSM also trying to get on to Seth, both of those in the top 5. 3.5 seconds is the gap back to Hazard Racing Productions then. This race for P number 6 is for the race of position outside of the qualification spots, and all of them want to get past. They all feel like they might be getting counted up by Hazard Racing Productions, but we've seen how good he can be in defense. Even though he makes some mistakes, he makes the tires last for quite a while, but now he's going to get really pressured by Rig 3, who's got a really good, nice and tight car at the moment. He's finding some better grip than Hazard Racing Productions has done on this lap. Continuously across the entirety of the circuit. He's going to round up the hill. We're going to ride on board to watch this happen then. He's going to open up that DRS. He's going to open up the DRS. He will attack around the longer way, but with a a little bit of extra DRS usage, he will get by. But Cheese Gromit will also find the angle to get by as well. And Hazard's Racing Productions, in the span of one straight, will lose 2 positions. And Cheese Gromit will keep chasing down Rig 3 for P number 6, as Rig 3 got a little bit clear, but Hazard's Racing Productions with the DRS unable to contest back again.
The gap between Rig 3 and Seth already falling. Rig 3 making sure he can get that chase, so he has the potential to get into that top 5 qualifying spots. Of course, the more you push though, the more tyre wear you endure. So do these drivers really want to be pushing this hard this early? I'm going to assume they do, because they just want to get into those qualifying spots. They know the more the laps go on, the less chance they have of getting those qualifying spots to get themselves to the land finals. So they're pulling out all the stops, making sure they're going as fast as possible, and they're picking up as much time as possible. Rig 3 rounding the penultimate corners. Still 2 seconds down from Seth, but it's closed the gap by a second already in space of less than a lap. Cheese Gromit is just close enough to still get the DRS. Hazard Racing Productions, I think, was just outside by the DRS. No, he wasn't. He got it. Was just on the cusp, but managed to pick it up. There's a lock up there from Cheese Gromit into turn 1. Not going to be good for their tyre wears. They're really pushing as hard as they can. There's a caution flag thrown out in Sector 2. I believe that is Esports 2. Unfortunately, just race going from bad to worse as they are all the way down in P17.
Esports 3 going side by side with Baz Thomas further up in the field, making the overtake on the second straight of the circuit, and was able to hold it around the outside. He did have to battle up through this corner that we're going through right now with the inside line. He was able to make that move stick against Baz Thomas to get back into P2 on circuit, with Rig 3 up 10 positions. We said it before the race, but there's always a driver who gets disqualified and can make their way through. It's Logan Edwards at Mexico. Now it's Rig 3 chasing down Seth. He has pulled 1.7, he pulled 2.5 actually onto Hazard Racing Productions. The Cheese Gromit made a mistake and slipped down to P number 10, but has been a critical error made on that few laps. But Seth is struggling now in the race against NCS Sim, who started on the hard tyre compound, who's feeling the advantage of starting harder early and getting to go longer in this stint. The tyre wear now starting to be on that switchover point, but Rig 3 still with plenty of pace on their medium tyres. A driver trying to aim as high as possible and will make it potentially upset the current standing of the top 5.
Almost a quarter of the way through this race then, and only 2 drivers yet to pick up penalties. I think that's pretty good going considering the history this league has, with black and white flags being thrown out everywhere. Especially with the last race, only 2 drivers going penaltyless. So Esports 3, NRC Adam currently with 3 seconds and 10 seconds to their names respectively. So we'll see if they end up being the only ones, as we see Rig 3 going kind of wide there onto the curve, but not, and over the line, but not too bad that it will affect their pace. But I don't know if they'll get a warning for that. Most likely they will. Still trying to chase down Seth. The gap is closing, but not quite as fast as it was closing earlier. YCB Emily is now the next driver to pick up a penalty, who started in last. Unfortunately did not set a qualifying time. So it's not looking great for Emily to make up those positions. Unfortunately, you wanted to be further up than 16th after this amount of time if you wanted to be putting in a potential challenge for that top 5 positions. But for now, it seems like Rig 3 is that one to be bringing the challenge to the top 5. Hazard's Racing Productions then battling Racing Rig. Let's go back to these 2. So they make their way down through the center S's. Racing Rig 1 just leading Hazard Racing Productions by not even 2 tenths of a second. Halfbot's right behind them as well. This is going to be a very tight battle between these 3 cars, as Hazard looks to go around the outside. Does he have the pace to stick it out? He goes too wide, but Racing Rig 1 almost pushes him wide as well.
That's going to leave the opportunity for Halfbot then to try and attack, but it's going to get squeezed out by Hazard Racing Productions. And now we get into the part of the circuit where it's hard to go side by side. But Halfbot does find an inside line, but blocks up and then falls off of the back as both of them go deep. Racing Rig 1 has Racing Productions having to keep it tidy through the second bit, and that will give Rig 1 a little bit of reprieve as Hazard Racing Productions flies a little bit for the back and keeps going deep into these corners. But this brings Cheese Gromit back into the fray. This is going to be a 4-race fight for P7 as Rig 3 is now 7.2 seconds. And now in the DRS to Seth further up the field, he's not going to get the chance to make the overtake this time round towards the centre. So actually, he might actually have the opportunity to get by. Seth is the first driver in the leading sect to get into the pit lane, but a driver, not in the pit lane, but still potentially losing a position, unless they're sharp on the brakes. It's Rig 1, but they slide on top of the curb. He's going to try and block it out of the Productions, pushes it off the circuit, and he actually switches again, and that makes the racing driver of Halfbot have to check up. He goes really wide, and that allows Cheese Gromit to come on through, who's now within the span of one corner, and the defense of Rig 1 picking up 2 more positions, but now having to go in the defensive action as he deployed so much ERS, but on the traction zone towards the hill. We see Rig 1 sliding on the top of the curb again. The curbs here, yes, you can use them a lot more than at Mexico, because the track limits are far more fair compared to what they are at Mexico, especially for the S's. But as we're seeing with lower penalties, they are very slippery if you attack them in the wrong way.
Racing Rig 1 is defending so hard right now, almost too hard, that they're losing so much time to drives in front. The time, the gap keeps building. It was only around, like, oh no, they go around! That is the defense over, as they've lost 4 positions just from spinning. That's 5 now, as Emma Payne makes their way through. And looks like so much traction has been lost. Maybe a mechanical failure, or maybe the tyres have just lost a life. But that now leads Cheese Gromit now in that defending position. Halfbot behind. We'll see how much time, how much space they can make up on the top 5 now that the main defense of Racing Rig 1 has gone. Seth also making their way past Racing Rig 1. That has just gone from bad to worse after just one spin. Hazard Racing Productions also, something that happened to them. I don't know if they've gone into the pit. They have gone into the pit. Fair enough. Hazard Racing Productions also dropped a lot of positions then, as Racing Rig 1 still trying to chase down Seth. It goes wide again. There's definitely some tyre issues there for them. It's almost looking like they will need to go to the end of the pits. Let's try and cycle through and see. Yeah, Seth and Hazards and Chaotic Bean with 3 drivers so far yet to pit, or have pitted, sorry.
The gap between Racing Rig 1 and Seth is a lot closer than I would have thought it would have been. Yes, Seth has only been that pit lane, but overtaken already means that Racing Rig 1 is now so far off in the back, and he's just getting absolutely pulled away from. Now, it is a very difficult race to do a one-stop race here at Brazil, but it is by far the fastest strategy, just due to the fact that the tyres can hang on and you don't lose too much lap time, but it can be so difficult to keep the car on circuit. As we're seeing another lock-up, this is exactly what you need to avoid to keep the tyres alive, as Hazard Racing Productions picks up a penalty on the first flying out lap on that new tyre.
And there's chances of qualification for Hazards are just slipping away even more now. Driver who's been so persistent and keeps trying to get that qualifying spot, but unfortunately keeps missing out each time, and unfortunately that penalty was not going to help them out in this race, especially in a race where it seems like most people are able to keep themselves out of the penalties. But Cheese Gromit also picks up a 3-second, and we're on board now with Halfbot, who's still trying to chase down. Maybe the pressure of Halfbot is getting to Cheese Gromit. He's starting to make some mistakes now, but it's still managing to pick up space. Oh no, never mind, the gap is now closing as soon as I say that. Halfbot still has a big gap to chase, as Cheese Gromit has the pace on him. And we'll see if it stays like this. Does Cheese Gromit have the pace to keep Halfbot out of DRS range? I don't believe he does. Halfbot will pick up the DRS, and the flap will open as we come down the start-finish straight to lap number 15. Almost halfway through the race already. It's been a lot of battling, a lot of people trying to get these track positions. Cheese Gromit still just on the cut, just on the outside of the top 3 for qualifying. Bastum is in P5 currently, holding the final qualifying spot. Cavsy Alex and CS Sim though are so far ahead. It almost looks like, actually we're going to jump forward a little bit, so it looks like Esports 3 is about to make a challenge onto NCS Sim 2 as we go through the technical sector 2. Esports 3 in the silver car having a look. Doesn't quite get a move there. Of course, it's a difficult spot to make a move, so probably just biding their time. Esports 3 though on the faster compounder tyres, but considering they've been going for this long on them, are they still the faster compounder tyres? Losing a lot of time through the technical sector. Now 0.6 of a second away from NCS Sim 2, but we'll have DRS as we come down the start-finish straight. The rear flap will open.
Might be long if the drivers will be wanting desperately to go towards that pit lane. You see the driver of Rig 3 coming into that pit lane as well. Now Esports 3 does have that penalty to their name and is on this tyre, but will be looking away. NCS Sim has a long way to go on that hard set of get some lap delta onto those hard tyres. Maybe later on we can come back again against NCS Sim 2. But as we look down a little bit further through the grid, Cheese Grommet has broke the DRS gap to Halfbot on that previous lap. Adam's now on the back of Halfbot as well. And then looking even further down, Rig 3 with a penalty to their name, and Half has a racing reduction to their name as well. Rig 3 trying to make their way, and they do get past Emma Payne on that fresh set of tyres, but 6.5 seconds behind Seth, who will promote back into P7. He's the driver who was in P number 5 before the pit stops, and has a long of drivers still yet to pit in front of him, but still provisional P5 is where he is aiming, or P4, depending on the pace of Petter Baston.
And you can see on the track map in your bottom right corner, a lot of gaps beginning to form as another driver, Deep Bolton Ramos, steps into the pits. One more driver, I believe that is Emma Payne, on their way out through pit lane now. Just going to be close between them and Chaotic Bean. In fact, we'll jump back towards them, actually. No, it wasn't. It was Emma Payne and Racing Rig 1. My apologies. Racing Rig 1 just getting past as Emma Payne comes out of the pits. Racing Rig 1 on 3-lap older tyres. Both on the hards now, down in P11. And Esports 3 finally blinks and goes into the pits. That allows Baztum to go into P3. Cheese Grommet is now still in P5, potentially going to make a pass. No, it doesn't. Cheese Grommet also goes into the pits. So that will allow Halfbot into the top 5, making those mediums last a little bit longer than Cheese Grommet. Racing Rig 1 has got past Emma Payne and is now beginning to build a lead. Let's jump forward. You know what? We've not given him much attention yet, but Cavsy Alex, let's just follow him for the remainder of this lap and see how he takes it, because he looks like he is driving so well, even on tyres that should not be faster than NCS Sim 2 right now. Still building that gap. 10.5 seconds. It's been staying around the 10-second mark for the last couple of laps, but is just managing to keep those medium tyres alive long enough to keep the pace as we come around the final turn. Of course, no DRS. He does no one to gain it off, and then goes into the pits finally after 16 laps. Will most likely change to the hard tyres for the remaining 20. So as we go on board now with NCS Sim 2 as they make their way around the final turn. Also no DRS for them. They don't need it though, as they're about to pick up P1 from Cavsy Alex, who's just swapped onto the hard tyres. And Baston picks up a 10-second for speeding in the pit lane.
That's exactly so not what you want, especially with Rig 3, who was racing against them. He's only 0. He's actually less than a second behind Esports 3 after coming out of the pit lane. Yes, he's on a slightly older tyre, but Rig 3 with a huge undercut onto everyone in front of him. They was doing an amazing race for the field, and they pace back ahead of Halfbot and Bastum in the pit lane, and Bastum is now staring a 10-second penalty as well. Rig 3 has found an absolutely amazing strategy of pitting earlier, and on this fresh set of hards, has absolutely been thundering around the circuit, waking their way into the top 5 and forcing Bastum and Esport 3 to pick up a bit of a panic, and especially that of Bastum, who overshot into the pit lane, will now be desperate to make sure they don't make any more mistakes for this race, because they are sitting on the same penalty of Rig 3, who's also got 10 for their name.
Yeah, looking at this right now, the penalties, again, less penalties than we saw at Mexico. NCS Sim 2 picks up a 10-second penalty, speeding in the pit lane.
All of these different drivers picking up penalties entering the pit lane after being so clean on track limits. For the first stint, they've over-pushed into the pit lane. NCS Sim, where will you come out relative to everyone else? Also, he was on the hard tyres, and he's ended up making it not that much further than what Alex did on the mediums. He's going to slip then all the way down to P number 5. We'll be on very racy mediums coming out of this pit lane, and will be quite far back. And with 10 seconds, this really opens up the opportunity for Esports 3 to finish in the top 3 positions on that podium, but it's top 5 where you need to be. Bastum and NCS Sim 2, both with 10 seconds to their names, but NCS Sim 2 will be on those medium tyres, so should pull away, but we'll have to get them up to temperature before Bastum can make the moves on them.
What a race so far. Esports 3 then still trying to chase down Rig 3. NCS Sim 2, that's so unfortunate for them. They were keeping themselves ahead enough. They could have potentially been battling for the win. Now they'll be on the medium tyres, I believe, if we cycle through. Yes, NCS Sim The only driver to start on the hards is now the only driver that is on the mediums. Going to try and push those as hard as possible in the last 16 laps of this race. Try and claw back as much track position as they've lost in the pits, and as they will lose once that 10-second penalty is applied to their finishing time. CCSW Adam picking up a 3-second penalty.
Yeah,
So many penalties being thrown out.
Number 10. As we see, 3 drivers in the top 6. They're the 6 drivers. The top 6 are the only 6 drivers really racing for this qualification position. NCS Sim is putting on the defense against Baston, both with equalised penalties. Esports 3 have only 3, and then the top 2 with none. Rig 3 is catching up to Seth in P number 2, but will also have to race for that 10-second penalty. But luckily for them, they're racing 2 other drivers with that 10 seconds looming over them as well, who are behind him at the moment. So it's going to be very difficult for these top 6 drivers to really differentiate themselves now, especially with 3 of them with the race of penalties and the 3 of them without penalties or significant penalties to their name. So this race has now switched over to the tactical side, and Baston will really want to be able to keep up with NCS Sim 2, because that's his race for P5 at the moment, because he's 5 seconds behind that of Esports 3. And then once you've added on that penalties as well, it's going to be a lot bigger gap that they're going to have to deal with. But right now, NCS Sim 2 making those medium work and able to pull a little bit of a gap for the middle sector to offset the difference of the DRS.
I'd like to point out as well, Seth was one of the first drivers to pit, I believe, in this race, and is now on that cusp of the 10 seconds away from Alex that NCS Sim 2 was before. So maybe the early pit has started to pay off, but at the same time, towards the end of this race, they're going to lose so much time. They're going to lose so much performance in those tyres if they end up electing to stay on the one-stop strategy. Oh, that isn't... What's happened there? An orange car has just gone too tight on the inside in sector 2 and cut across. I believe that's lap traffic though, so not really affecting the race too much. NCF Sim then still in P5, being chased by Baston in P6. Both of these drivers actually racing for position for those penalties. Esports 3 just ahead. In fact, we are going to jump forward to them. Cavsey Alex sets the fastest lap with a 110, even on the hard tyres. Emma Payne picking up a 3-second penalty. Esports 3 trying to chase down Seth and Rig 3. As Rig 3 makes a good pass before turn 1 and holds it. Now 11 seconds are the top 3 away from Cavsey Alex.
Seth starting to struggle on the older hard tyres. They pit really early in the race. They actually pit at a point in the race where you'd think they'd want to do the 2-stop strategies, but going to the hard, that really indicates that they're going to go to the 1-stop strategy, because the 2-stop requires using the soft tyres and 2 sets of mediums for it to even be on the same level of pace as the 1-stop strategy. And we're seeing the difference in the tyre delta. It's over 6 laps between the 2 of these drivers, and you're seeing just how difficult it's becoming for Esports 3, as he's now getting absolutely hounded by NCS Sim 2 is way behind actually. It's Esports 3 on Seth. As I'm stumbling over my words. Esports 3 is looking extremely racy, but losing so much time. Rick 3 dives down the inside and has already pulled 2 seconds over that of Seth. And Esports 3 is just going to have to wait through that tight and twisty bit. It becomes so hard to overtake when you can manage it, correctly, and that's where we see it. Esports Seth has actually diverted the strategy against Esports 3 and the rest of his competition, and will switch to the 2-stop strategy, but that makes it so much more work for themselves. They're now going to have to find pace and hope that the lack of 10-second penalties gets them into this race for P number 4, as they are so far off of the back after that pit stop, but they will have very racing tyres towards the end.
See, actually, if we can, Seth going for another set of hard tyres, so really not played out the way I think they thought that this race would, which is unfortunate for them. Hazard's Racing Productions then, and Cheese Grommet still where they started, trying to get themselves into the top 5, but have a lot of space to make up. Let's jump back then towards Hazard's Racing Productions. These are only 8 tenths, 9 tenths now off Cheese Grommet. Look, potentially lost a lot of time in a couple of those corners. Has to try and make it up so they can pick up the DRS towards the end of the lap. These 2 drivers though, fan favourites I believe, so wanting to put on a show but also wanting to qualify, and right as it looks right now they have a tall order ahead of them to try and get into that top 5 positions, but anything can happen, right? Jumping on board with Baston just ahead on the hard tyres, chasing down NCS Sim on the medium, should not be able to keep up. But, you know, as these tyres are starting to wear down, Baston will start to get themselves a little bit faster pace. Does also have the DRS advantage over NCS Sim.
The main difficulty here at Brazil is the graining of the tyres and the hard strain so much slower, especially if you drive smoothly. So the matter of the game for Baston here is to drive really smoothly and rely on the DRS to keep up with NCS Sim 2 until their tyres grain and end up falling off of the cliff, and then it will make it a lot easier to make that overtake. Because right now these two are racing for the top 5 positions, but if Seth does manage to catch them on the softer set, this will be a race for the final qualification position. It's all on the back of Seth at the moment to catch them, otherwise both of these drivers will be qualifying in the current state of things, as Cheese Gromit 13 seconds behind of this battle is racing with Hazard Racing Productions, but has pulled 2.4 second gap on that previous lap alone, as Seth, right in that DRS zone now of P7, is going to look to make that move early against Hazard Racing Production and lose as little time as possible, and maybe even gain time by slingshotting themselves with that DRS. And with the benefit of having no penalties to their name, once they catch past Cheese Gromit, they just have to slip within that 10-second penalty range, and they don't actually have to make the overtake on circuit, which can be a hell of a lot more difficult. As they switch to the outside line then, that will be them sailing on by, and without a locker, they're going to see themselves trying to line up for a good exit speed as well. No ERS though, but maybe open up a chance for Hazard Racing Productions with that DRS to attack them yet again, but you're seeing the D rating coming out of Hazard Racing Productions. So Seth, up into P7, and now chasing down Cheese Gromit before the attack onto Bastum and that 10-second penalty.
Yeah, Seth, of course, not on the best strategy against a lot of these drivers. Cheese Gromit picks up another 3-second penalty, so that means Seth is now definitely comfortably in that P6 position after these penalties shake out, but still has another 5 seconds to gain on track, maybe a little bit more than that if he wants to be comfortable to get into these positions, the qualifying positions. Esports 3 drops a couple of positions down. I'm going to assume a little bit of a slide there through the last few turns. Jumping on board with them now, as they are 3.5 seconds away from the drivers in front and 10 seconds away from the driver behind. So in a pretty comfortable pocket of open air now. Just has to look after themselves and get themselves to the end of this race, not have too many issues, and they should be able to qualify in this race. 10-second penalties for all 3 drivers in front, so they should pick up another couple positions thanks to that as well, as long as they keep themselves safe. Let's jump forward to Bastum. Chaotic Beam picks up a 3-second penalty on the top of your screen there. That's 13 seconds worth of penalties for them now. It's unfortunate, but they are so far away, I don't think they'll... After so many laps.
The tyre wear will start to be switching over between the two of them. As we are getting later into this race, we are seeing that Bastum is actually getting way closer. 2 tenths is the closest we've seen between the two of them in absolutely ages. But does Bastum have what it takes to make this move on the inside line? He's going to try and dive on out and dive back in again, but no reaction from NCS Sim. Confident on the brakes, gives himself the chance to swing through the center S's and keep that position on lock for now. But they will get a second helping of DRS as well. But with the slipstream in front, it's a distant slipstream, but it's going to neutralize it again just a little bit. Right now, we're not seeing the confidence and the aggressiveness coming out from Bastum to make this overtake. Very much happy to sit behind that of NCS Sim 2 because they know the tyre wear will come to them later. Ooh.
Seth made a position up into P6, it looks like, on Cheese Gromit. Now, is this... No, it is. It is Seth we're following in the red car there, and Cheese Gromit in the white and blue car behind. Potentially a battle forming here as Cheese Gromit wants to get this track position back. Regardless of the penalties that they have yet to serve, they'll still want to be making sure that they get past and making sure that they're the fastest on track, regardless of how it all shakes out once the checkered flag falls. But Seth on the charge now on these fresh tyres, fresher than everyone else on the track, I believe.
Bastam, yet again, really close on the back of NCS Sim. This is the closest they're going to be, but he's still not there into the braking zone. Sub 1/10 of a second, trying to make this overtake work, but he's not able to make it work in the end. It's really struggling for himself. He's really quicker than NCS Sim at this stage already. The tyre change has already started to transition, and NCS Sim locking up into that braking zone as well. You're really seeing the difficulty between the two. Tyre compounds now starting to shine again. The later pit stop from Esports 3 was only by 1 lap on the Haas. He clearly didn't manage to drag the tyres by that much further, and now the switchover is really in Bastam's hands. He's going to hound into the back. He knows he needs to make this overtake. Seth is catching up. He's only 9.9 seconds behind Esports 3, which is 1.7 seconds behind this. So he's now roughly a total of 12 seconds behind. He just needs to find a further 2 seconds. And with the battling between these two, they are slowing each other down just a little bit. So now Bastam is going to have to keep on making sure that this pace is going to be quick enough to qualify if he wants to stick behind. But if he wants to make sure he qualifies, he's going to have to make the overtake. But actually, we see NCS Sim 2 deciding to come in to the pit lane so late into the race. It's going to be such a difficult strategy to come to the end. Yes, he can switch over to the soft tyres, which will be a hell of a lot quicker. But this is going to be an absolute marathon, but also a sprint at the same time. He will need to manage the tyre wear perfectly to get lap time at every single lap. But he's dropped behind Halfbot, Hazards, Adam, Cheese Gromit, and has over 10 seconds to gain. He is completely out of this fray because he's tagged that 10-second penalty, but he will get past Emma Payne, but will be racing on the exit again as he rounds through. He may even lose the position to another driver as well, but it's going to be difficult. He needs to make so much pace up now as Seth picks up another 3 second, picks up their first 3-second penalty, but right now, already in the top 5 positions, and with the driver at NCS Sim 2 potentially forced to pit due to heavy tyre wear, they have been cut out of the battle for the top 5 positions at the moment.
NCS Sims drops another position to Emma Payne coming out of the pits, so still half a second off that car in front for them. Still on board with Esports 3 though, as they're 1.2 behind and getting a little lock up there into the turn 1 in the centre S.
And Esports 3 is going to be on the charge. They don't need to make this overtake in the race work. They just need to make sure that they can keep up with these drivers. As we look back to NCS Sim 2, he is the one on the charge. We need to see how good their lap time can be. He switched to the medium tyres and actually is going to get raced back against by Emma Payne, who will open up on the inside and actually hold up NCS Sim 2. This is exactly against what they need. They need to make these overtakes every single time on the first time of asking to race back through the field, but they're unable to do so on the first call. But on the second call, they will get past that of Emma Payne. But now, on the medium tyres, that does mean they're going to be able to push directly towards the end every single lap. But it will make it so much harder to have that outright pace that they need to make it towards the end. As we switch over to Adam for a little bit, they're hovering on this 1 second margin behind Cheese Gromit for P number 6, but they are hovering a 3-second penalty difference between them. As the race productions behind is 6 seconds less, down by 4.4 seconds as well. This means that Hazard Racing Productions will promote into P number 8, but they're still off of that top 5 finishing positions. That is critical for qualifying further. But it's again, Esports 3 now in that 1 second window trying to catch up. As we said about Adam though, picks up another set of penalties for crossing track limits and really putting themselves out of this race again from the top 6 to 8 positions as Halfbot. P9, no penalties to their name, might even actually get into that fray as well against Hazard Racing Productions. But Seth picks up another track limit penalties. They're pushing so hard at the moment and now starting to risk it as Cheese Gromit is actually only 1.5 seconds behind that as Seth. But they're now on equal penalties. So Seth, who is on a second set of cards, in theory should have the pace, but they're starting to struggle in the dying stages of this race, which is making it a lot more difficult for themselves. And with their pushing on the track limits, they've neutralized the penalty advantage to the cars behind, and has neutralized the penalty advantage to the cars in front, and has made it so much harder for themselves. As we look further though, Esports 3 on the charge onto Bastam is still hounding them. Now less than second in that DRS, is now going to try and get down to the last few tenths of a second to make this overtake on track, but they still have this position even in theory based off the penalties.
God, it is crazy because Cheese Gromit needed to make up 15 seconds realistically just a couple laps ago, or sorry, 5 seconds to be able to get themselves into qualifying positions. Now they only need to make up one second, thanks to Seth's mistakes. Hazard Race Productions picks up another 3-second penalty, so unfortunately, it looks like, oh my god, wait, sorry, let's jump back. Looks like Adam's made a position on Cheese Gromit now. So now it is Adam and Cheese Gromit both trying to battle to get into that top 5 positions. I don't know if Cheese Gromit made a mistake or Adam's just been having a generational drive. I'd like to think it's the former because that 12 seconds worth of penalties for Adam indicates that they've not been having the greatest race. But Seth, with a pretty clean record, most of this race has picked up 6 seconds of penalties, has really opened the door to the drivers behind. Because before that, they really need to get close enough that the 2 drivers in second and third with 10 seconds worth of penalties, it was up to getting close to them to be able to get into the top 5. But now, all they need to do is keep themselves close enough to Seth and serve just about the same or less than penalties. So for right now, Adam is not in that position. Cheese Gromit could be though if he manages to claim a little bit more position back in the remaining 4 laps of this race.
Esports 3 does get past Badstuff on circuit and is less than 10 seconds behind, less than 7 seconds behind Rick Free, so we'll promote into P number 2. But Adam is trying to make the moves on the circuit. They have the pace, they are absolutely flying, but they got 6 seconds. Now that they've made the overtake to buy themselves, they have 4 laps to do so, but can they make 1.2 to 1.4 seconds a lap over the 2 drivers behind, who are clearly starting to struggle? And the 1 driver of the 2 behind that I didn't expect to struggle is that of Seth. They've been clearly in the top 5 all race long, and they've done an extra pit stop. They're on some of the newest tyres on the entire grid, yet they are still in a phase of struggling as they hit a potential yellow flag that does clear from NRC Adam, who's been having a hugely rough race, pulling a lot of yellow flags. So if we go again, looking down the order, NCS Sim 2 as well, still down in 10th position. They're running out of laps, they're running out of time, and they won't be making their run through the grid at the moment, as they are still behind that of Halfbar, and then they have this bunch of penalties. But they are nearly into this fray. They are so close, but they made a mistake. They've just dropped 3 seconds onto Halfbar. Cast a curse, you may say. They was closer than this, but they've lost time to that of Halfbar, arguably putting them out of fray. And we actually need to start talking about Halfbar, as if it wasn't for the gap in front of 6 seconds to Hazard Racing Productions, they'd really be into this race right now. But it's still starting to get a little bit chaotic, as Baston trying to keep up with Esports 3, who's really switching on those tyres, starting to struggle after making that overtake work. But then, with top 2, we do need to mention their names at least a little bit. Rick Free and Alex both been very clinical in this race in terms of pace. Baston wants to prove that they can finish on the podium in terms of raw pace, even if they picked up 80 penalties to their name. This top 4 is definitely confirmed to be making it through as long as they keep it clean. As we see a huge amount of overspeed, we are going to see Baston backing out at the a lockup coming through from Rick Free as well. It's going to make it a little bit harder.
A lap and a half remaining for our race leader, CAFC Alex. He's still on board with Baston, trying to get back past Esports 3, but unfortunately I don't think they'll have enough pace now as time is running out. Let's jump back a little bit though, because as CCSW Adam is in P5, the final qualifying spot, it really comes down to whoever wins between Seth and Cheese Gromit to pick up the final qualifying spot due to the penalties that will be applied at the end of the race. Seth 1.3 seconds behind Adam. Cheese Gromit a further second behind Seth. Cheese Gromit showing so much pace and being able to close the gaps to Seth. In fact, we're going to go back to it now because the gap's been closed by about 4 tenths of a second there, but again, picked up another 4 tenths just through another couple turns there. Cheese Gromit and Seth, they're faster than each other in some sections and slower than in the others. This is a real battle of attrition between these 2 drivers as they want to keep themselves within that 6 second, now 9 second range of Adam, who's picked up a further 3 seconds worth of penalties. So Adam definitely will not be finishing in the qualifying positions. Now it is really between Seth and Cheese Gromit as they make their way to cross the timing line for the final lap. But I think it's time We give our flowers to... Oh, never mind. I'm going to pause it there as Cheese Grommet's made the pass. Can he keep hold of it? Through the center S. Oh, dive bomb from Seth. Down into the turn 1. Does not quite make it stick. Cheese Grommet still holding P6. The most important position for this final lap. But we're going to draw our eyes away from them for a second. I say not yet. Does not hold it. So let's jump on board with Cavs Alex as he crosses the timing line for the final time. The checkered flag falls for a worthy champion of Cavs Alex, winning this race, winning the first qualifying spot. We're going to jump back towards Rig 3, who with 10 seconds worth of penalties to their name and 4 seconds behind them will unfortunately lose out this P2. But a great drive from them as they round the final turns now to cross the finishing line in P2, but will unfortunately lose this position to Esports 3, who now crosses the line in P3. Bastum in P4 also crosses the line. CCSW Adam then, the next car on track with the black and orange. 15 seconds of penalties to their names, 16 seconds behind Bastum. So unfortunately, a very good race from them, but Cheese Grommet picks up the final qualifying position from Seth, who just unfortunately misses out by a second. So that's Cavs Adam in 7th, has his racing production fit, crosses the line in P8. Halfbot fit crosses the line in, I believe, P9, but gets graduated to P8. NCS Sim in P7. And Emma Payne will be our final driver to cross the finish, or our penultimate driver to cross the finish line in P11, unfortunately just out, and that means Esports 2, the final driver in P15, and a lot of drivers, lapped drivers, finishing in between those positions.
Alex, with the clinical race, will take the top step in the podium and will confidently move on towards that of the qualification spot to get to Grove. Followed up by an amazing drive for the field, the second of 2 drivers tonight to get the disqualified or very back of the grid starting position to go towards the podium finishing positions of Rig 3. Then followed up behind by a couple of the drivers who were all there the entire race long. But it's really the storyline of Seth and how they crumbled on tyre wear that really got them out of this race. Cheese Grommet and the drivers behind were in a race of their own that was really struggling to keep pace with the top 6 for the entire duration. But in the dying stages, even with the extra pit stop, Seth could not make it work and falls down to P6, getting Cheese Grommet towards Grove off of on-track qualification. NCS Sim tried to do hards to mediums. They set the fastest lap. They clearly had good pace, but could not make it work, as that 10-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane made it too difficult for themselves. But it's crucial to mention, before we all end off for this evening, all of these drivers on the cusp can still make it.
Yeah.
How do they do that?
Well, there's the panel of judges, I believe, which will allocate 5 more slots to drivers who unfortunately missed out, but showed very good pace or very good performances. So they could earn their positions from that way, but there's also a further 5 spots for the 5 centres, I believe, or colleges, whatever. The 5 colleges with the most entries into the heat stages. And the most drivers participating in that will automatically earn themselves 1 more spot for another driver to enter into the position. That'll make up the 40 drivers, 10 from qualifiers 1, 2 and 3, and then the further 5 from the panel and the further 5 from the centres with the most representation. And that will be your 40 drivers making their way to Grove at the end of April for the LAN finals. We hope to see you there. My name's been Freddie.
My name's been Kieran.
Thank you so much for joining us for these 2 races, and we'll see you again, hopefully, very soon. Goodbye.